We've actually invited a couple pastors from the area to join us. And so in just a moment, they're going to be with us, and we're going to ask them their impressions. They've seen this just for the first time. We weren't able to give them, this data is so fresh. We weren't able to give them any advance notice to be able to do that. And we've got Cassandra Wainwright with Heaven Sent Outreach Ministries, who's going to be joining us, and also Mike Bickley, the pastor of Journey Bible Church. So if I could invite them to the panel stage, and go ahead and just put your insights in there, that would be great. But Cassandra, Mike, welcome so much to the Barna Forums.
Great to be here.
So you just heard that data for the first time. I know you're still taking it in. We're putting you in the hot seat here. Anything surprise you when you heard that? Anything kind of make you go, huh, that's interesting. I wasn't expecting to hear that.
For me, Mark, I think everything that was noted was pretty much on point. The only thing that surprised me pretty much was the sermon length, that you indicated that the younger culture would really be interested in longer sermons. I think that was the only thing that really surprised me.
I would say we've been offering a counseling center for quite a while. I found it unusual that the unchurched people would look to the church to provide counseling services for the benefit of the community. And some of the topics that they had, morality and values and relationships, I found it something we ought to tap into, that they're favorably disposed to hearing about that from a distinctly Christian perspective.
Yeah. There's a lot of Bible explorers out there, or Christian explorers. They're kind of kicking the tires of the church right now. And we're going to talk a little more how we can engage those. What that sermon length thing, and that was an interesting phenomenon. That was in present in Kansas City, but also in the national research as well, which was surprising to me too, Cassandra. And it wasn't like they were looking for 2-hour long sermons. It was just a little bit longer expectation. But it was interesting to kind of note that sometimes we get our data wrong. We get our understanding, our perceptions wrong, and data can help us correct some of those things. For me, that was a shovel. It was one of those things I want to dig a little deeper and try and understand what that means. Because sometimes we can be so brief that we're not really diving in deep with some of these issues, and that may be some of what they're feeling is you're not really crossing the finish line for me. So that'll be interesting to explore a little further and find out what that means. What was an encouragement to you? Was there anything in the data where you just went, wow, that really spoke to my heart?
For me, it was the perception of local pastors, the data that was indicated there. To know that, especially over this past year, how the community saw the role of the church and of local pastors was encouraging to know that we haven't been off that much as it relates to the local church and what our role and responsibility should have been over this past year.
I'm an ordained minister. I don't pastor a church currently, but I've talked to so many of my friends who've just said during the pandemic, they've just felt so beat down, so helpless. So yeah, it was really encouraging to see that the community saw the leadership that they provided and had a positive experience with that. That was deeply encouraging to me as well. Thank you for that. Michael, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think just reinforcing that still the number one thing people are looking for is hope, and that we shouldn't assume that has switched and that we can't, that we need to provide something else as a main message. And that was just really encouraging to me, to remind us that the gospel is still the greatest hope out there, and that we should never shy away from sharing it all we can.
Yeah, somehow the gospel, the good news people, we've turned into bad news people more than anything. And yeah, that need for hope is still alive out there, maybe even more so now than in the past. I'm just curious, as you were listening, was there anything, and I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but is there anything that kind of made you think, you know what, I could take action on this? Like I could actually do something in this direction. I would maybe look at this as something I need to, move on following this. Is there anything like that stood out to you? came to mind? I won't hold you to it.
Yeah, well, the one thing that kind of struck me as I was listening to this is that idea that was said that, you know, the people are not looking for truth, but for good in the community, and just how we promote our church. And oftentimes we're standing for truth. And so maybe we need to do a whole lot more in seeing that people's entry point in examining the church is based on the good we do rather than the truth we hold. And I just thought that was an interesting dynamic for us as we head into the community.
Yeah, very, very powerful. Yeah, when David and I did our research for Faith for Exiles, our last book, it was overwhelming how many, you know, we talked to a couple individuals, young people that were saying, even if you could prove to me that Christianity was true, I really am more concerned whether it's good or not. And I thought that was pretty remarkable. So, Cassandra, I'll give you the last word. Anything that stood out in your mind?
Just for me, it would be self-examination as a local pastor and a member of the clergy as well, and actually really wanting to share this information and this data, as well as gauge those in our communities, those that I have a sphere of influence around, to actually have them assess their own beliefs on whether this data really matches up with where they think we are as well as a local church.
Yeah, that's great. In fact, we're going to show you later on, everybody, how they can use the toolkit to actually do some of that local measurement in your own churches.